Hello, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I'll be going over one of the most useful and lesser-known Imperial capital ships that you may have never heard of before, the Gladiator class Star Destroyer. So, we'll start out by going over the general background info and the origins. Then, we'll check out what it really does on the space battlefield. Without further ado, let's get into the lore of the Gladiator class Star Destroyer. So, to begin, with the initial design of the Gladiator was by Waylux Blissix, or Waylux Cantwell Blissix the First. And funny enough, his daughter Leah Wessex designed the Venator class Star Destroyer as well, which you all should know from the Clone Wars, which such a great show, and the Raider. So all in all, a very, very accomplished family within the Empire. Back to the ship though, it was initially designed as a Star Destroyer escort for the Republic in the Clone Wars, but it was indeed repurposed to be its own single unit functioning vessel that was independent and very long ranged. It was capable of occupying entire systems on its own, which to me is one of the most impressive parts of it, as it started out as an escort and became a system-occupying capital ship, which is really impressive, but also shows the Empire's need to repurpose their ships so they can spread out farther. Though it was one of the smallest capital ships employed by the Imperial Navy, it still had a formidable crew and armament that it still stands to impress. The Gladiator had 1,000 personnel on board, which is a decent number, not too bad for a smaller ship like that, even though it wasn't really small, but you get what I mean in comparison to the other Star Destroyers. It was also able to carry out orbital bombardments and the regular duties of a Star Destroyer, which is really important because if smaller ships are more mobile and it can still bombard planets orbitally, that means it's really important and vital to the Empire and keeping down the inflammation of the rebels. The ship, it costed around 38 million credits and was manufactured in the Kuwait drive yards, like many other famed ships. The Kuwait drive yards are pretty famous, and 38 million credits, I'm not one who knows too much about the prices of credits in Star Wars universe, but that's not too bad for the Empire. Anyways, back to the ship. The carrying capacity was decent. It had starfighters with 2 squadrons available, ATSTs, shuttles, and landing craft on board the Gladiator, which is pretty decent, and despite its size, the Gladiator class was very powerful, boasting 12 turret-mounted dual light turbolasers, 3 port, 3 starboard, and 4 aft turret-mounted medium laser cannons, 10 assault concussion missile launchers, 4 2-port and 2 starboard medium tractor beam projectors, which just means that those are all around the ship, and so it's pretty defended from air everywhere. And the concussion missiles were capital grade and had the ability to devastate ground targets and hostile space installations, which is what we heard earlier from orbital bombardments. Sorry if that was like a lot of technical terms. So overall, a pretty beefed up capital ship. But now, let's go over the nitty gritty and look at what this bad boy really did out on the battlefield. So, mostly the Gladiator was sent to hyperspace routes in the Outer Rim, usually on their own, but occasionally did have some support vessels in their complement. Of course, the main reason they were dispatched to the Outer Rim was due to the fact that the rebels had a little sweet spot for the Outer Rim, as there was a much smaller presence of Imperial forces. And that's where the Gladiator came in especially. It could block hyperspace routes or prevent rebel forces from entering and exiting wherever they needed to be in the Outer Rim. And with the looming threat of a Gladiator in these remote Outer Rim planets, it could help prevent a large rebel buildup, if that's what the rebels even want to do, which they usually don't, because that would ruin the entire point of rebellion's hit and run tactics, or their tactical advantage of having millions on millions of recruits, but all tucked into bustling cities or small niches where they could be undiscoverable by the Empire and other forces. Overall, the Gladiator was a formidable and tactically useful capital ship within the Imperial Navy. Just to reiterate, it had turret-mounted medium laser cannons, assault concussion missile launchers, and medium tractor beam projectors, which are all really useful for any capital ship. And for these to be on such a small ship is pretty impressive. And overall, I believe that they could have been used maybe a bit more in the Outer Rim than they are or were used as, and maybe you could use as side pieces some of the larger flagships and the Empire had, such as the regular Star Destroyer, which was much bigger than this, or the Super Star Destroyer, etc., you know what I mean. And the use of orbital bombardment that they're capable of could have been utilized more to keep down the rebel inflammation in the Outer Rim, because that's where they really thrived, like such as Tatooine. But besides all that, that was the Gladiator class Star Destroyer. Thank you for watching, and make sure to go check out the other Starships videos I have up on the channel. I got one about the Malevolent if you want, but other than that, goodbye.